Hello everybody, how's everybody doing? Everything is good on this side of the camera because I'm on my motorcycle, so that makes everything good. Of course, that's not the only reason everything's good, but you know, it helps. As you guys saw now, I have posted you guys a question and I am curious to know the answer. Now, we will get into some details after the intro, so please enjoy. Welcome to any of you who are new to this channel, and I appreciate very much you clicking on this video. I'm your host, Mrs. Gay. Mr. K is not on this video this time. Maybe next one. Maybe the one after that. But welcome to Kawakouple. As you guys saw by the title, I want to know how many of you would turn around and do what Mr. K and myself did, considering that we started this a little bit late because we were in our mid-30s. I know, shock. Dun dun dun. People on YouTube are older than 25. Yeah, I know, it's a silly little haha. It has no purpose. I would like to know, number one, how many of you would learn how to ride a motorcycle in your mid-30s? Number two, how many of you guys would start a YouTube channel to represent the fact that you're starting to learn how to ride in your mid-30s? This is what I want to know. How many of you would go down this path? I know to a small degree, Mr. K and I are a little bit unusual, and we are both lucky that we have each other. For you guys who are new to the channel and do not know this, I didn't have any motor vehicle license before I learned how to ride a motorcycle. So my first driving license was for a motorcycle, which on its own is a little bit strange. And I agree with that. But I like to do things a little bit differently. But in my defense, I think it's actually a better way that I did it. But that's a different discussion for a different time, and I'm pretty sure that I've already done something similar to that in another video. In case you guys don't know, we have a lot of videos on our channel for being on YouTube for 4 years. Here I am in the majority of people's minds to be a little bit wacky because, like I said, no license up to this point. All I had was a ID. All I had was ID. I could walk on the street, and at that time I rode public transportation, or I could take a taxi, or the lovely Mr. K could pick me up, drop me off, take me wherever. But majority of the time I didn't ask him to do that. Like, this has to do with my inexperience level when I started riding a motorcycle, because I barely knew anything. I didn't know the road rules. I didn't know any of that fun stuff. I knew them in theory. I didn't know them in concept. Let's put it that way. Because I did know things. Like I said, I knew them in theory. I didn't know them in concept. That is what I'm going with. And that makes the most sense out of this whole thing. The whole point here is we went down this really weird path in general, if you think about it. Especially considering that, like I said, we were in our mid-30s when we started this. So there was Mr. K and myself, and we were watching YouTube, and I believe it was Terrific when we came up with this whole concept of, you know what, we should do that too. And I said, you know what, I am going to do my own. I am not getting on the back of the bike with you. Now, I do have a reason for this, and I don't know if I've ever shared it with you guys, which is when I was younger, I had a boyfriend at the time who had a motorcycle. So one way or another, like even when I was younger, I knew people with motorcycles. One way or another, motorcycles were there, so it was eventually going to creep into my life. It just was what it was. It took a little bit longer, I guess, than most people. I don't know why. To get on with the story here. I was on the back of his bike. On a second note here, just so you guys all know here, almost everybody that I knew that had a motorcycle that caught my eye were actually all Kawasaki's, and I believe they were all Ninjas. I just can't remember 100%. But I already had something with Kawasaki before I started actually riding, which is actually kind of funny. It's one of those little things, unless you really think about it, and you're like, oh yeah, wait, I did have that. That's a side note. That's not the main point of the story. These are side notes. They're not part of the main story, but they lead up to the story in a sense. There we go. There I was sitting on the back of the motorcycle, not knowing anything, not knowing what to expect. It was all foreign to me in that sense. And it was just in a parking lot, but it was one of those multi-level parking lots. So you go down and you go up. And my boyfriend at the time decided that it would be fun. Let's go down and let's go up. I did not really appreciate the feeling that I got being on the back of the motorcycle when the motorcycle was going down the ramp. And it felt like the top of the parking structure was going to take off my head. Obviously, there was more than enough room. It just felt that way because any of you who have ever been on the back of a motorcycle, especially a sports bike, will know that your riding position is higher on the pillion seat than it is for the rider. That is why I felt like it was going to take off my head, even though it wasn't. After that, I was just like, yeah, you have fun on the motorcycle. I'm not going to get on the back of it with you. And he was like, oh, okay. It did give me a little bit of a, I don't really like this feeling kind of thing. But that's my thing. That's how I felt. Not everybody feels that way. And I completely understand. And I agree with any of you who don't. I guess it just comes down to one of those things. The inexperience is what made me feel agitated for being on the back of the motorcycle as a pillion. To get back to the main part of the story here. When Mr. K and I decided that we were going to go for the motorcycle license, I told him, that's how it's going to be. I'm going to ride my own motorcycle, you ride your own motorcycle. And he's like, great. I'm like, what do you mean great? He goes, I didn't want to have a passenger anyways. I'm like, okay. So this works out good for the both of us because neither one of us want to have a pillion or be the pillion. He's like, no. I'm like, okay, perfect. I have absolutely no problem with this. And he's like, neither do I. As previously stated, as you guys know, I had no driver's license at all. So me learning to ride a motorcycle was my first license. And it was my first bit out on the road by myself. Here in BC, we kind of go through stages. So you go learner level, novice level, and then you get your full license. In a car, though, being on your learner level, you have to have a skilled driver in the car with you without an N over the age of 25. Whereas in a motorcycle, the minute that you pass your skills test, you are allowed to be out on the road by yourself as a motorcyclist with an L on your bike, which was even more funny and at the same time weird for me in the sense of, okay, I'm out on the road, I have an L, and there's no other motorcycle with me. And I think that if I didn't know how the rule was, I would be kind of put back by that, looking at somebody with an L on the back of their motorcycle and having no other motorcyclist with them. And I'd kind of be like, okay, that's a little bit strange for me, but now that I know how that works, I understand that. This is how it is with anything in life. If you think about it, unless you actually know that that's how the system is, you're not going to know that. So for you, it's going to look a little bit, I guess, confusing or different. So now at the same time that we're going through all of this, finding a course, going and trying on motorcycles, which kind of motorcycle we like, going and seeing where we want to take our course and all of this stuff, because these are all things that you have to look into. It's not like you automatically go, I want to get a motorcycle and I want to learn, and okay, well, here's everything you need. It doesn't work that way. It would be kind of cool if it worked that way, but it doesn't. So it was kind of one of those things where we had to do our research, figure it all out. Then on top of that, we had to figure out, okay, so obviously there's a way that these people that are content creators are able to record and, all of these things so that they can put up the videos. So again, more research. And we kind of got lucky in that sense because for us, I know other people have had problems with it, but for us, we haven't had it. Well, I'm not going to say we didn't have any problems. It just, our problems were minor compared to what other people had. So for us, it actually turned out really good, which was the Cena. So we ended up having the whole system, the communicator, the camera, everything in one. So it actually ended up being a benefit for us because here we were able to now communicate to each other as well as record the videos without having to put any extra items on the helmet. Even myself, I don't really like the way it looks, but Mr. K really does not like the way that the chin mount look. He's like, no, that's horrible. Well, he doesn't say it like that. I'm just saying that. Like, he really preferred not to have the chin mount style. He's like, no, I don't like the way that looks at all. I like the point of view version that we have and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, well, we found the cameras. Now we had to buy gear, take the course, everything else like that, which, as all of you know, is not a cheap endeavor to do any of it. So, of course, here we are, we find the motorcycles we like. We're like, Ninja 300 all the way. I ended up with a blue one that had black on it. He ended up with the gray one that had black on it. For him, and I know that this has a lot to do with the fact that he was already a driver and everything like that, he kind of outgrew the 300 a lot faster, which I completely understand. And if I was in the same scenario, I probably would have had the same thing where I would have been like, yeah, I can understand why you'd outgrow the 300 faster. For me, it took me a lot longer, I think, to find all those comfort levels, get acquainted with the bike, feel like, the connection, especially as a new person. Those nerves add up. And because they add up, it kind of causes one of those things where it kind of fluctuates in your head going, I'm on the motorcycle. What happens if it does this? What happens if it does that? Of course, you get over it, and with everything else, you learn, you adapt, you work on your skill, and I still work on my skill because I don't think that I'm 100%. I'm a motorcycle rider, and I know everything, and I can do anything, and I'm gonna do, like, crazy leans and high-speed maneuvers and all of that stuff. No, that's not the way it is. And I don't want to ever feel like that's the way it is. I think that every day that you're out there, whatever you're doing, you can always learn to enhance whatever you have. So I like the fact that I'm like, okay, I can enhance my riding ability. I can enhance my driving ability. Like, these are things that I appreciate. It's not one of these things where I'm going, nope, I'm perfect, I know everything, because boy do I don't. And when it comes to all the workings of the vehicle, I definitely have a lot to learn. But that's my side, and not everybody's like that. They understand the mechanics, they understand everything without a hitch. For I said, for myself, it took a little bit longer to understand how the clutch works, what the difference between a wet clutch was and a dry clutch. Once I learned those things, though, I found it a lot more easier to understand, I guess, the simple learnings of the vehicle, whereas before I was like, okay, I know I have this thing that makes me stop. Now, why is it bad to use the front, and why is it bad to use the back? Which was one of those things that it, taught me in the course, obviously. And for me, what I found, really hilarious when it came to the course is, because I didn't know anything, I had no skills. For me, and the course was, how many times can I fall? How many times can I bruise my legs? And stand up, brush myself off, and start all over again. When I came out of the course, my legs were black and blue. It was my little badges of honor, even though Mr. K looked at me going, why? Why are you all black and blue? And I'm just like, well, I was learning. Because, of course, he is like a fish to water. After, a little bit extra instruction of, how the counter steering is and hill starts and stuff like this, how tight you can maneuver on the vehicle, Mr. K was like, I got it. Then he goes out onto the road and he goes, okay, I got it. For any of you guys who have seen the first video, you know that his first video was definitely ambitious. Going out there and riding from Burnaby area all the way down to Stanley Park. But that's his style. My style was more along the lines of, okay, I'm going to stay close to home, 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 because in case anything happens, I want to be close to home. And that was kind of, I guess, more of the, like, I'm a scaredy cat kind of thing happened. And then I slowly started making my circle bigger and bigger and bigger. Now pretty much anywhere I can go. The only issue I have is I'm not exactly the best when it comes to navigation. I need a map or GPS. Of course, it would look really silly if I had a map open up in front of me trying to ride. That would be quite the image, I must say. I don't want to be the person to try that out or test the theory to see how weird it would look. But that's kind of like the extreme version if you think about it. Like, I got a map on my motorcycle. Like, I could just get a GPS system. I just really don't want to at this moment in time. Maybe later on down the road I might do it. For me, this is more of a leisure vehicle than it is I need this for everyday use, This is my happy spot, my little, Bella, you make me so happy. This is what it is. And everybody, it's different. Some people use it as their regular mode of transportation, their everyday use. And for those people, especially if they take a lot of different routes and stuff like that, they definitely would need the GPS or to have a very good sense of navigation. This is basically the story of how it came to be that myself and Mr. K were very, very crazy and decided to learn to ride motorcycles and start YouTubing at the same time, when it actually was a little bit bonkers of us. I want to know if any of you guys would go through all that. Would you take all those little efforts and steps and everything like that, especially when you're in your mid-30s, to turn around and go, I'm going to learn how to ride a motorcycle and I'm going to learn how to be a moto vlogger or a content creator? Because I think we were a little bit nuts, but in a good way. Definitely in a good way. Like, don't get me wrong, guys. Everything that we did, all the steps, all the extras, all the learning, even the beat up little bruises and bumps and unfortunate scratches that came onto the motorcycle, learning how to rap, all of those things, it was all fun for us. So basically the whole point of all of this is, would any of you do it? If so, let us know down in the comments. We always appreciate reading your comments. Till the next video, stay safe, love, ride, and explore, and look at this beautiful bike. Until the next video, ta-ta. Two white Teslas, Model 3s, back to back. And neither one of them did chrome delete. If you like this kind of content and would like to see more of what we do, because as you guys know, sometimes it's me and Mrs. K, and sometimes it's Mr. K, and that's Kawakouple. And sometimes it's the two of us, because, well, reasons for why we are not the two of us all the time on the channel is what I mean. Obviously not that. Anyways, the whole point was, if you like what you see, if you like this content, please consider subscribing, hitting that bell, and turning on the notifications. If not, well, the video's there. You can watch it. None of these are requirements. Let me get to my point now. As you guys saw, I posted you guys a question, which is, how many of you, anyways, in general, anyways, Anyway. That's what I say to you. But anyways, to get into the reality here is I'm going to go when I can go, and then we will talk again. And I have the sniffles for some reason, and I think that's because the air is a little bit cooler outside, and me inside my helmet is nice and warm and toasty, because you get toasty in a helmet? I don't know. It could be just me. I actually don't know. So the whole point here is that we went down this really weird, than it is for the driver. I am not on a hill, but I have not tested this out yet. There we go. Oh yeah, that's very steady.